डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Hello friends, welcome to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad. Myself, Dr. Vinod L. Desai, Associate Professor, PG Department of Computer Science and Technology, Vallabh Vidyanagar, Sardar Patel University. In today's sessions, we will talk regarding web page layout, importance of page layout, non-semantic elements of page layout, and defining layout techniques. So let's start with layout. What does it mean? Initially, let's have a real world environment. Okay, whenever any real-time project starts, then what will happen actually? The engineers or architects starts with designing the infrastructure layout. What does it mean? Generally, if any project starts, then engineer thinks about what kind of amenities they want to provide at the ground floor level, at the basement, and at the floors, first floor, second floors, like that. So generally any project involves number of tasks in terms of designing the layouts, providing other mechanical services, etc. The same real-time concepts applies to the web world. So what is the layout in a website concept? So generally website, as we know, it is consisting of collection of web pages. So whenever a developer starts designing a website, they generally thinks of web page designing. So generally web page designing involves various kind of tasks. What kind of contents they are supposed to put on a web page, the content that they are supposed to put on a web page contains only text or images or videos or any other kind of content. So based on that they have to design the web page. So generally the layout provides such kind of mechanisms or helps the developers to put all these contents in a way that can attract the users to visit the website frequently. So if we have to define a HTML layout, then it is a blueprint used to arrange web pages in a well-defined manner. A web layout defines the appearance of website. So how the website will look, that will be decided by the layout used by the developers. It is easy to navigate, simple to understand, and uses HTML tags to customize web design elements. Correct format of HTML layout will improve a website's appearance. Of course, if correct format is used for designing a web pages, then definitely it will improve the performance and appearance of a website. HTML layouts are typically responsive by default. They will also be properly formatted for mobile devices. So based on the devices used for accessing the websites, the layout will definitely help the users to navigate in a way that can not change the content based on the screen resolution of a used devices. It is a structure that helps the user navigate through web pages easily. It is a way in which you can design web pages using simple HTML tags. It refers to the way in which the content of a website is organized and structured. It makes the website easy to navigate. That means using the layout, our developers or designers can structure the web page and also decide the content of the page, where to put an image, where to put a video, and on what place to put a content, so that it can be a good website in terms of appearance and accessibility. Now if we have to talk about the importance of web page layout, then it is important for both for user experience and the technical performance of a website. Of course, if the website designed in such a way that can attract the users, and users can get the content very easily without any hassle, then definitely it will improve the user experience. And at the same time, if it is properly formatted and designed, then technical personnel in later on they wants to change it, they can easily change. So it is very important from the user's point of view as well as from the technical person's point of view that layout used must be in a proper manner. A clean structured HTML layout ensures the properly organized content. Of course, as we said that if it is properly formatted and used, then content updation makes easy. It improves the user's ability to find information quickly and easily. If the links are placed in a particular place, if any frequently accessible data is easily available on a website, then definitely the navigations and information searching becomes very easy through the HTML layout. Proper layout provides clear and consistent navigation, making it easier for all users to find what they need. Search engines prefer well-structured sites with clear navigation and semantic markup, potentially improving the site's ranking in search results. SEO kind of we can say mechanisms definitely uses this kind of we can say services to find the content to the users in a shorter and a quick time without any delay. So if a proper layout is used for designing the websites, then definitely it will improve the performance in terms of SEO. A well-organized HTML layout makes the website easier to maintain and update, saving time and resources in the long run. Efficient layout design helps in the optimal usage of resources, enhancing the site's overall performance. A proper HTML layout is not just about making it beautiful, it is fundamental in ensuring a website is accessible, user-friendly, SEO optimized and easy to maintain and update. Of course, if proper layout mechanism is used, then it becomes very easy for users to find the required data easily, as well as it becomes easy to find the content on a website through the SEO very easily, and in future as well whenever the updation is required, then proper layout will help the technical personnel to update it very smoothly without any hassle or delay. Now layout designing involves two kinds of mechanism, non-semantic and semantic elements. So what are non-semantic elements? So an HTML non-semantic elements like division and span tag do not have any inherent meaning and are used as generic containers to style and organize content. So whenever we have already seen various HTML documents in which division tags and span tags were used. Generally whenever we are using division and span tags, that doesn't have directly any meaning. They are simply a containers. Okay. So they don't have any meaning for the particular content, but they just having a block in which we put a content. So they are known as non-semantic elements. First let's have a look at division. So it is a block level element often used as a container for other elements. Okay, how do we use it? So simply we need to use the division tag, and then after we can use this attribute like ID to identify the division tag, and then after whatever contents we want to put in a division, that will be placed. Okay, so here we have just used a paragraph tag inside the division. This is a block level container element, that is the text that we are placing in a division tag, and then after division tag is closed. Same way span tag is there. So it is an inline element. Span is an inline element that applies styles or scripting to a portion of text. Okay, so this is an inline tag, that means it will be used within or internal to another tag. Let's have a look at this another, we can say next statement. We have used a paragraph, then we are writing welcome to, and then after we have used span tag to highlight the next content, that is we are providing a styling attribute as a color blue to the next content BAOU, and then after we are closing this span tag, and then the next content is university. So the content to be placed in a paragraph is welcome to BAOU University. So within this content we are highlighting BAOU through the color blue using the span tag. So that's why we said that it is an inline tag. It is an inline tag, we are using it within a paragraph tag. So division and span both are, we can say, non-semantic elements. Let's have a look and understand through the example. So it would be very easy for us to understand it. Okay. So if you look at this example, we can say a HTML document having a title, non-semantic elements example, then after we have used a style tag, within that we have one id container we can say, and then one class is highlight is there, and in the body of the HTML we are using a division tag as you can see, and it is having a id container, and then after within the division tag you can see that one header is there, welcome to BAOU, and under that a paragraph tag is there in which we are writing at, and within that we are using a span tag as well and highlighting it with a we can say class attribute. Then after BAOU and span tag we are closing, and then after the content is there. So what we did over here is that we have one in a style tag we are using a id attribute, that is container for the division tag, and then after we can say for the span tag the class attribute is there highlight, then we are using a class attribute that is highlight, and it is highlighted through the color blue, and font weight we have bold. Okay, while the overall division is what we can say we are using a border and padding and margin property. So this is what the span and division tag and non-cementing elements we are using. Now let's try to run it to understand it better way. As you can see in a browser that welcome to BAOU is we can say displayed in a bold, and then after we can say at BAOU a span tag is used to highlight the BAU in a blue color. Okay, overall the division is there, okay, and the content is placed within that welcome to BAU, and then after the paragraph tag using a span tag. So this both are we can say non-cementing elements, or we can say block level containers that we can use for the text or for the purpose where directly no meaning is concerned to display the content. But if the content is to be highlighted to the proper meaning, then we should not go for non-cementing elements. Okay, so this is all about division and span tag. Now what are the uses of non-cementing elements? So non-cementing elements are used when other elements do not apply, or you have to accomplish specific design or interactive tasks without semantic elements. So whenever we doesn't need any semantic elements or the direct meaning of the content is not involved, then we should go for non-semantic elements. When you want to manipulate elements with JavaScript, you can use division or span to target specific sections of your web pages. For generic containers that don't fit the definition of semantic elements like articles, sections, headers, etc., then we should go for non-semantic elements. Offers flexibility without implying any particular meaning, ensuring no confusion, okay, in elements role. So in such cases we should go for non-semantic elements. Now semantic HTML5 elements. So semantic elements in HTML5 provides a clear and structured layout, improving the clarity, accessibility and search engine optimization of web documents by offering meaningful tags for the content. Now what are the importances of semantic elements? So semantic elements generally involves the tags which are supported by HTML5 having the proper meaning. Okay, so whenever we need to place the specific content having a special purpose for the web page, then we should go for the semantic elements. The importance is that it assists it helpful in assistive technologies like screen readers, use semantic elements to provide better navigation and understanding. Search engines use semantic elements to improve the ranking of web pages as they clearly define content sections. Of course, as we know that semantic elements is having a proper and specific meanings, so it helps us to design the special sections having a separate, we can say, importance in terms of the content flow and having a proper, we can say, relation with respect to its meaning. It is easier to read and maintain code with semantic tags as they inherently describe their purposes. Now let's have a look about what are the semantic elements. So as you can see in the image, at the top there is a header, then after we can use navigation tag, then section is there, then article is there, then aside is there, and we can say footer is there. So these are the, we can say, semantic elements that we should use for our web page designing, for proper web page layout. Now there are various layout techniques available and developers and engineers are using across the, we can say, IT field for designing the web pages. Among that, HTML tables are used, CSS flex box is there, CSS grid is there, CSS float property is used, and CSS frameworks are used. Let's have a look at each one. First, HTML tables. As we already know and used HTML tables, so generally tables is consisting of rows and columns. So whenever we want to put the content in a row and column manner, then we will definitely go for the HTML tables. It is easy to create a layout with the table elements, but it is not a good choice for responsive pages because they don't easily reconfigure with different browser size. Okay, definitely we know that table is having a row and column manner and it is fixed. So whenever we are dealing with the responsive kind of contents, so browser needs such kind of, we can say, flexibility to display the content whenever the screen set getting changed, then table is not a preferred choice for such kind of layout designing. So table is not used and it is, we can say, limitations with respect to web page layout designing for the table element. Therefore, table should not be used as a layout technique. If you have to see practically how table looks, then let's have a look. The table is simply, as you can see that we have one table having, we are already defining a class attribute for table, that is TB. Then we have one TR tag. Within that table headers is there, first name, last name, city, state and country. And then after we have various values for those headers with respect to various rows. Okay, total 3 row we have defined with the content. Okay, and for that we have used a CSS style for designing the table headers and table content with various properties like border collapsed, padding property we have used for the content, and background color we have changed for the headers. Okay, so let's have a look at by running this practical to understand the table's importance in a web page layout designing. As you can see, okay, so this is what the table's view of the content in a layout manner. But as we know that if the screen size getting changed, then table layout is not properly suitable to adapt the changes that is taken place through the change in the screen size. Simply we have kept here the 100% screen size, so it is there, but if we are changing it to from 100 to 50, then definitely it will change accordingly. Let's refresh the page. So now it is moved from 100% to 50% size of the window. But ultimately what we mean to say is that table is not a, we can say, preferred way for the layout designing of the web page. Moving next, that is CSS flex box. The flex container becomes flexible by setting the display property to flex. So whenever we want this layout, then we have to set the display property of a, we can say, container to a flex. Use of flex box ensures that elements behave predictably when the page has to accommodate different screen sizes and different display devices. It will definitely adapt according to the display size in screen. So it is very easy to move the and adapt the content and resize the content based on the screen size. Because of this, Flexbox is a good choice for layout components rather than entire web page layouts. The Flex container properties includes Flex direction, it may be a column, row reverse, column reverse. Flex wrap property is having a value like wrap or no wrap. Flex flow property is having a value in terms of, we can say, row wrap. That is what generally flex flow is a shorthand property, we can say, for both the previously talked properties like flex direction and flex wrap. Shorthand property, we can say. So we can write the property in a single property, that is row wrap. The same way justify content is another property. So it is used to align the text flex items left, right, center, flex start, flex end, space around, space between. Then align items is another property having the value, we can say, flex start, flex end and stretch. Then after we can say align content is a property having the value flex start, that is default one, flex end, space around, space between, stretch. We can use CSS Flexbox for the requirement of the web page design where the screen size and device is getting frequently changed. So, based on the change in the device and screen size, the content is automatically getting responsive. So, it is a better choice compared to the HTML table. Let's try to understand through the practical examination. A practical is there for the flex box. As you can see, we have simply a division tag having the class attribute, and then after we have another, we can subdivision tags for containing the, we can say, letters or any content you can place within the division tag. Here we have simply used the alphabets from A to K. Okay. So, a main division tag is and subdivision tag is there for containing the alphabets from A to K, and we have defined this division having a class attribute, that is flexbox. So, and for this flexbox we have defined a CSS property like background color is steel blue, and as we said that to use the flexbox you have to set the display property to flex. So, this is very important, this one. Okay, you have to set display property to flex, then and then the content would be displayed in a flexbox manner. Then after we have used flex wrap property to wrap the content. Okay, then after for the subdivisional tags of the flexbox class attribute, we have used background color, margin, width, height, line height, text align, font size, and flex property for the, we can say, subdivisional content, that is alphabets we have displayed within the subdivision tags. Okay, so simply let's try to run this program to understand the flexbox layout. As you can see, okay, so flex box has already displayed a layout in terms of, we can say, a row. Okay, here we have used a row property, but we already discussed it. Okay, as you can see that first property, let's look flex direction, that is column, row reverse and column reverse. Right now the default, we can say, we have used it, that is row, but if you want to display the components or divisional components in a, we can say, column manner, then you can also change it to column. Let's try to change it. Okay. The property is flex direction. Flex direction column. Let's refresh it. As you can see now, the layout is changed from row to column, and you can also update various other properties as we have mentioned over here to get the reflections of the particular property to set the layout of your contents. So, also it is very important and very, we can say, appealing layout compared to the HTML element. Next is CSS grid view. The CSS grid layout module offers a grid based layout system with rows and columns. It makes easy to design web pages without having to use floats and positioning. Okay. Grid is not supported by Internet Explorer or Edge 59 earlier versions of this browser. Grid is a solid choice for creating page layouts. A grid layout must have a parent element with the display property set to grid or inline grid, as we did with the, we can say, flexi layout. The same way here also we have to set the display property to either grid or inline grid. Direct child element of the grid container automatically becomes grid items. You can adjust the gap size by using one of the following properties: column gap, whatever you want, row gap, whatever you want. You can specify the value in terms of pixels, and gap, that is row and column. So, this is shorthand property. Gap is a shorthand property for both the previous properties, that is column gap and row gap. You can specify it based on your requirement. So, let's talk regarding CSS grid view through practical example. Okay, so you can see over here we have a one HTML document when we are using a division tag having a class attribute that is grid layout, and then after we have used further subdivisional elements, okay, like BAU, menu, then we can say main, right and footer. So total we can say we have used subdivisional tags for displaying this grid layout, and at whatever the content we want to display we have designed as we can say CSS. So in CSS we have designed what? In a grid layout we are specifying the display, as we said that we want to set the display property to grid or inline grid to set our layout in a grid way. Then after we can say background color we have set that is blue, padding provided, the gap, grid gap is provided that is 10 pixels. Likewise we can say grid template area is there having we can say the content we want to display, that is BAOU, then menu, main, and then this is what the content you want to display in a grid view, okay, in a row column manner. And then after the for subdivisional tags we have designed the CSS, background color, then padding, then text align and font size. Okay, so let's run it to understand the grid view in a better way. As you can see in a browser that the grid view layout is displayed using this content, that is BAU used at the top, then after menu is there at the left hand side, and then in the center there is a main, and right side the right is there, and at the last we can say the footer is there. Okay, so it is displayed using a we can say grid view in a row column manner. Okay, as we said that the display is set to grid, but you can also set inline grid. Okay, so it is now commented, but let me to remove this comment and check it through the inline grid. What happens instead of grid? If we are using an inline grid, then what would be the output? Okay, so right now we are using display is a inline grid, not a simple grid. Now let's refresh the page. As you can see now it is inline. So within the we can say flow of the content, the grid layout is used. So this way as per your requirement you can set the display either grid or inline grid. The same way you can also having a we can say a grid gap property that is 10 pixels between the row and columns. So it is a shorthand property about both the column and row, as we said. See here both it is commented right now, but the shorthand property is grid gap we have used. So either you can use the grid column gap separately or row gap separately, and otherwise if you want both as a common one then you can use grid gap as a shorthand property for both. So this way you can use a we can say grid view as a layout. The next is CSS floats. Until recently it was common to create entire web layouts using the CSS float property. The float property specifies whether an element should float to the left, right or not at all. Absolutely positioned elements ignore the float property. Okay, absolutely positioned elements are then that they doesn't require any kind of mechanisms to change it because it is absolutely placed. So float property, if it is specified, it is going to be ignored. Elements next to the floating element will flow around it. To avoid this, use the clear property. Okay, we will use clear property to avoid this. The float property can have one of the following values: left, right, none, inherit. The element inherits the float value of its parents. In its simple use, the float property can be used to wrap text around images. So generally, if we have an image and we want its descriptions around it, then we will definitely use float property. And then after we can set the content around the image. So in this way, we can have a better look of the web page in a layout manner. Let's try to understand through the example. CSS float property. Okay, so in here simple we have one image and we have styled it to a float and its left margin Okay, we have floating it to our left, and then after we have set various property in terms of margin and values and border values we have provided, and solid and light blues. And the image that we want to display is of Sardar Patel's image, and the content of Sardar Patel is what displayed in a, we can say, within the image tag. So we want this content to be placed around the image using the, we can say, our floating property of layout. So let's run to understand this layout design property very well. Float. As you can see, the Sardar Patel's image is displayed, okay, one side, that is what we can say left side, and the content is displayed at the right of the image as per our values we have provided in a document. If we want to float it right, then we can change the left to right floating value simply. Instead of left, we will put a right. Okay, so now the image is going to float at right hand side. Now refresh the page, as you can see now. So this way we can use a floating property, especially for putting the image and its content around it. You can set as well the center value and check the content. So this is all about CSS floating layout property. Next is CSS framework. To create a layout fast, you can use any of the popular CSS frameworks such as Bootstrap, Tailwind, CSS, Foundation and Booma. These frameworks have their own set of CSS styling and predefined classes. And using these frameworks, we can easily, or developers can easily design the web page and its layout very attractive, user friendly. So framework plays a vital role in today's website development, and it makes very easy for the developers without knowing the in detailed technical classes and its specifications. Simply they want just to place the component and the content in a particular area, and then after the rest of the work will be carried out by the framework. So frameworks makes the task very easy for the programmers to design the layout of a web page. Thank you very much. In these sessions, we have talked regarding the layout of websites and its various types, components in terms of semantic and non-semantic, and then after we have used various techniques through practical examples to understand it better way. Thank you very much.